In this video, we'll go over the big ideas of Chapter 3. We actually didn't start off by talking about median, altitude, and right bisector. We start off by reviewing what you did in grade 9, which is writing the equation of a line when you're presented some information, because that was really important. If you are not able to find the equation of a line, this unit is very disastrous. So we made sure we know how to find the equation of a line, because that's actually the first thing you did. So when we talked about median, altitude, and right bisector, you needed to know how to find the equation of the, for example, I don't know, like median from vertex A, or altitude from vertex B, or the right bisector of BC. And we really tried to emphasize not to memorize, okay? If you can draw it, then you will eventually be able to piece together and know how to find the equation of a line containing median from vertex A, for example. Okay, so try not to memorize the steps, because that's gonna fall apart. Okay, so really understand the drawing of each of these, and then you'll be able to find the equation of the line. Okay, shortest distance was right after, because we talked about the shortest distance from a point to a line, and we realized that really the shortest distance is an altitude. So if you find the length of the altitude, you know the shortest distance. Now, unfortunately, this was actually a pretty tedious process, because in order to find the length of the altitude, you needed to find two endpoints. Now you have one of the endpoints, but to find the other endpoint, it's basically solving a linear system, and you need to develop the equations of the two lines, and then you have to find the solution to the system, and after you find the solution to the system, you find the shortest distance using the length formula. So it's very tedious, but it is what it is. After that, we classified shapes on a coordinate plane. So in order to do this properly, you need to know your different types of triangles and quadrilaterals. For triangles, we have equilateral, scalene, isosceles, and maybe it's a right triangle, so you have to verify that using either the Pythagorean theorem or check if you have any pairs of slopes which are negative reciprocals. Now, to see if it is the type of quadrilateral, it's either a parallelogram, square, rhombus, or rectangle. So first, solve for the slopes to see. First, you have to see if a parallelogram, and then you can determine what kind of parallelogram by solving for a pair of adjacent sides, the length of a pair of adjacent sides. But that's basically the strategy. We diminished the amount of work we had to do by first doing slopes and then doing two sides. So don't solve for the length of all four sides. It's really unnecessary. Once you establish it's a parallelogram, two of the four sides is perfectly fine. Okay, and then after that, we talked about properties of triangles. So there are four properties we talked about. So median bisects the area. We talked about the mid segment and how it's parallel to and half the length of the third side. We talked about the centroid dividing the medians in a 2-to-1 ratio. And we talked about how the right bisectors of the triangle intersect at a point called circumcenter, and that is the center of the circumscribed circle. So you could review the triangle, but ultimately you need to know the properties, and we will ask you to verify them. Same thing for quadrilateral circles. So, like for example, the midpoints of the sides. If you join the midpoints of the four sides, you'll form a parallelogram. That's a very interesting property of quadrilateral. We talked about the median of the trapezoid. Median of the trapezoid, or you can say the midline or the mid segment of the trapezoid. It's parallel to the parallel sides of the trapezoid, and it's the average of the lengths. So there's a lot of different interesting properties. But yeah, we might ask you to verify them. I'll give you one more for the circle. So diameters have to intersect at the center of the circle, and the right bisector of a chord must go through the center of the circle. So yeah, but one of the most important ones you have to know is the circumcenter. The circumcenter is very, very important. because it answers questions. For example, like where find the point where it's equidistant to 3 non-collinear points. That is very powerful. Now, if we ask you to find the centroid, then you have to find where the medians intersect. Now, there's one more where the altitudes intersect, and that's called the orthocenter. But that one isn't as important compared to the centroid and the circumcenter. Since we're talking about centroid, I didn't mention it in the videos, but the centroid is really cool or very interesting because it's the center of mass. So if you have time, cut out a triangle, okay, find out where the centroid is, because you have a ruler, you can take your time and find out the centroid, and then you can balance it on the tip of a lead pencil, like the one I'm holding, and if you do it properly, you'll be able to balance it perfectly. Well, if you find the centroid perfectly, it's the center of mass. So that's one of the nice applications of the centroid, as long as it's homogeneous, meaning like you can't, like if I have a triangle here, okay, this piece of paper is pretty much uniform weight, like it's not like thicker on one side and thinner on the other side. But if you were working with, like, I don't know, if I made this part of the triangle cardboard and the other side tissue paper, of course it's not going to balance, okay? So it has to be uniform in its composition. Okay, so those are the big ideas of chapter 3. The most important thing is just understanding your shapes and understanding median, altitude, and right bisector. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention. You definitely need to master the how to find a midpoint and how to find the length of a line segment. So chapter 2 and 3, we usually combine them and put it into one test because the ideas go hand in hand. Okay, so now you're set for chapter 3.